So, hello everyone. We are back here for another discussion on Module 5, which will be about workplace emergency preparedness and accident investigation and reporting. So, now let's focus on workplace emergency preparedness. So, now let's start with the word workplace emergency, which was defined by the OSHA as a situation that threatens employers, employees, customers, and the public, that disrupts or shut down operations or causes physical and environmental damage. Example of these are the natural phenomenons or any other activities that may cause injuries or another that may cause illness or biological disease or other harmful activities. So now let's move on to the requirements in order for the implementation of the workplace emergency preparedness. So from the Department of Order 98-18, Section 12 on occupational safety and health information states that any governing bodies of an establishment must provide workers with adequate and suitable information for the following. First, the hazards and the risk that is posed on the safety and health of the workers in the workplace. An example of these was the chemical safety data sheets. Next would be trainings on specific hazards, medical monitoring sheets, and other measures that reduces or minimizes the risk of exposure to the hazards. And lastly, emergency disaster management protocols, including proper evacuation and shutdown procedures, must be exercised. And now, based on Section 12 on Occupational Safety and Health Program, places shall develop and implement a suitable OSH program in a format prescribed by the DOLE, Department of Labor and Employment, and shall be posted in prominent places where is visible to the workers. For establishment with 50 workers or less, the program must be duly signed by the employer with the following materials: a company commitment to comply with the OSH standards or requirements. Another is general safety and health programs, which includes the provision of workers' welfare facilities, emergency and disaster preparedness and mandated drills, as well as the solid waste management. So now we're done with the requirements. Let's now move on to the emergency action planning. It is a process that assesses the hazards inside and outside of the workplace, which would cause emergency situation. So the steps on action planning is: the first is identify potential emergencies. The most potential would be earthquake emergency, fire, and another health emergencies, which could cause panic and emergency situation in the workplace. The next one would be assess how they would affect people in the workplace. This has something to do with the emotional and psychological capabilities of the workers. That must be taken into account in doing this second step. Then the last one would be plan how to respond. This talks about on what are the necessary preventions, preventions rather, or actions that must be taken in order to calm the situation. So now let's move on to the Emergency Action Plan or the EAP. The first would be the method for reporting the emergency. Second would be the evacuation policy procedures, which would be the evacuation route when there is an emergency situation in the workplace. Third would be the procedures for workers who remain to perform critical operation. The next is the emergency escape procedures and route assignments. Establish evacuation routes. procedure to account the personnel, rescue personnels, the emergency medical services, the rules of the employees, the employee training, and last would be the hazardous substances. Since we're done with the planning and the actual plan, let's now move on to the safety tips during emergency situations. These tips will be a great help for the employees to prepare for any case of emergencies such as fires, earthquakes, and etc. So, in case of fire in the workplace, first to be done is raise the alarm or press the alarm button. Second is to evacuate to safe place. Then third would be stay at an assembly point where with all the other employees. Then if trapped, conserve your energy and or make some noise so that the rescuers may find or locate your location. So now let's move on when there is an earthquake in the workplace. Most of us, if we are near a table or any things that could shield us, we should perform the drop, cover, and hold. Or we could also stay indoors. If we go outdoors, we must check for the debris that might fall, stay away from damaged buildings and infrastructures, and always be alert for aftershocks after the earthquake. So what if in case of there is a flood in the workplace? First would be listen to news advisories or weather advisories. Second is be aware of the possibility of flash floods in your areas. Then you must secure that the building is safe and so is yourself. Another one would be stay on firm ground to avoid being carried away if there is some flash floods or landslides. Another one is wait for the rescuers to come or if the situation has calmed. Okay, so now we're done with the workplace emergency preparedness. So now let's move on to accident investigation and reporting. So let's start with accident versus the accident. So accident is an unplanned and unwanted event that results to personal injury, illness, or property damage, such as car accident. Then, as for incident, it is an unplanned and unwanted event that disrupts the work process that may or may not result in injury. So, incident or accident investigation is a well ordered and thorough process to identify and correct the shortcomings in the safety and health management programs that is being implemented by the employees as well as the employers that was overlooked. This causes a deduction on the situation, on how it happens and why did it happen. So now let's move on to Rule 1050, which is the basis of OSH standards. This is so Rule 1050 is notification and keeping of records of accident and or occupational illnesses. On the report requirements part, all work accidents or occupational illnesses in place of employment which results in the disabling of condition or dangerous occurrences as defined in the 1053.2, it must be reported to the employer, to the regional labor office. The formal report shall be submitted by the employer or before the 20th day of the month following the day of the occurrence of the injury or the illness. It will then be submitted to the regional office on or before the 30th day of the same month when the employee does not report back to work. Another one is where the accidents or fitness results in death or permanent total disability, the employers, in addition to the written report required under subparagraph 1 above, shall initially notify the regional labor office or duly authorized representative within the 24 hours after the occurrence of the incident through the fastest available means of communication. Last would be the all deaths and permanent total disabilities shall be investigated by the regional office or duly authorized representatives within the 40th hour or 2 days after the receipt of the initial report of the employers. As shown in the screen is the work accident injury report or the WAIR-A due 30 days after the date of the accident. This is to be filled out by the employer and must be submitted to the regional office within the next 24 hours after the occurrence of the incident. This states the fatalities or the permanence of the disability to the worker, as well as the details of the worker that is injured. So, in an investigation, there is always a step that needs to be done. So, here it is. First would be the gathering of the data. This is about the inspection of the scene, the evaluation of the machines, and other materials. Second would be the analyzation of the data that is being gathered. Third would be the recommendation that needs to be done in the workplace. And last would be the implementation and the evaluation of the correct action that must be taken. So since we are talking about the investigation, let's move on to the program. The program helps promote this type of investigation and accidents to be done or to be prevented. So this program should include the guidelines such as when and how the management is notified of the accident, how and when who notifies the duly of the incident or the accident. So overall, this program shows the sequence of the process that needs to be taken when there is an investigation or an accident that has taken place in the workplace. So to sum up the topic on Module 5, which is related to workplace emergency preparedness, this that talks about the things that must be taken in order to prevent emergency situations and further injuries during that situation. Whereas accident investigation and reporting is a thorough process that evaluates and investigates situation that arises from the said emergency situations. So that is all for this topic. Thank you so much and God bless. Keep safe and bye bye.